Hey people, let's take a look at an art book. What? An art book? But it's the start of the episode. You look at art books usually about the mid portion, the mid third, the second third of the podcast is usually the art book looking at time. It's not art book time yet. It's only this at the beginning of the episode. Well, fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. I won't. THR, the harsh reality. Barry McGee, Duffwa. This is one of my favourite books that I own. This is one of the books that I'm most glad to own. Barry McGee. If you know graffiti, chances are you know Barry McGee, aka Twist. It's fucking. I believe that's him right there. This is a cool collection of photos. It's not all. It's photos, it's drawings, but it's photos of drawings. But this bit in particular, these first few pics, this is something I love, which I feel you don't see enough of, which is photos of like graffiti artists, sort of pre and post graffiti, because especially online, social media, the whole thing is to show the graffiti, show it happening, close up GoPro cams of the spray can, as it paints, and maybe time lapse of the development of the piece. But something that's really lacking in graffiti document keeping is everything before the piece happens, and I guess a lot of after the piece happens, because especially if it's illegal, going to the place like this, it's a whole mission of making sure you've got all your shit together, all your supplies, all your caps, finding a way in, making sure you know where you're going, where the way in is, if there's a weak spot in the fence, having you and your crew all go to the place at night time. That's sort of put by the wayside and almost taken for granted. Like when you see paintings up on bridges where there's a ledge like this that people stand on to walk out onto a bridge over a highway to paint their names, everyone goes, wow, that's amazing, how do they even get up there? And that's exactly the point. How do they even get up there? It's like, you don't want to spoil the magic, but it's a really interesting thing to see, the nighttime hidden aspect of graffiti, which is, how graffiti came to be. Graffiti's only as big as it is because of people, scurrying around at night time, hidden in the darkness, climbing over and under and through fences. Oh, look at all the funny faces. To go paint their names. So that's stuff like this. These sorts of photos are really, really cool for that, because it does, if you don't know graffiti, you look at that and go, oh, there's a guy in the woods, cool. But then if you know graffiti, you're like, that guy's probably driven miles and miles, parked his car or got on public transport or whatever, and then found this spot in the woods, walked through the woods for however long to get to this gate or a fence into, a yard where he knows there's a train or a wall or something he can paint, and he's tired and he's sweating and he's got all his paint with him and dirty hands by the end of it, and it's a whole thing trying not to get caught. There's all of that that's just lost because all you see is the photo on Instagram of a new spot I painted, a new wonderful piece I painted. But there's this whole other part behind. Anyway, that's quite cool. He cut out the van, and I believe that's like an envelope backing. How like envelopes on the insides have weird patterns on. I think that's what that is. Oh, cheeky. This is quite a hefty book, so I like photos like this as well. Buffed out graffiti. A shame to see, but I once painted a piece of graffiti. Ooh, shh, it was not allowed. And then when they buffed it, buffing is to paint over, to clean graffiti. It's called buffing graffiti. Like to buff out a thing. so they buffed this. It was just like a basic sort of straight letter piece I did, but they buffed it by painting over the lines in a paint that was like this, a different tone to the wall. So my piece was still there, but it was just painted over in these lines. So then I went back and outlined what they'd painted. So it was like a collaborative piece between me and the people painting out my... Very silly, but you know. These are some drawings Barry does with ink, brush and ink. And this is true of a lot of these sorts of things of Barry McGee's, is the drawings themselves I'm sort of like meh about. Like, they're not bad. The line work is really nice and really impressive. And if you've seen videos of him and interviews and stuff, you can see he's a very sort of modest, reserved, quiet kind of guy. And so he's really patient with his line work and stuff. He really takes his time to get all the lines neat and tidy. And so I really appreciate that aspect of it. The drawings themselves, I'm like, meh. Drawing of a face and whatever. But what you'll see later on is what I do like is stuff like this. There's some more better pictures later on in the book where something like this on its own is kind of meh to me. But it's when you see him put that into his exhibition spaces as like a, what do they call it, an installation piece. Like, these are mannequins. That's a sculpture of people spraying, because that's like a graffiti thing, to climb up upon each other to get to a higher spot, with the broken down vans and stuff. So stuff like this is hand painted. He uses blue tape to mask out the area, and then I think for this sort of thing he uses like those wedge sponge on a stick things to get nice and neat and tidy lines and patterns. So that's kind of like, yeah, okay, he painted a pattern, whatever. But it's when you see the collections of those later on, that's what I like. He's easily got one of like the cleanest, nicest looking hand styles as well. I mean, that's arguable. But his twister tags, they're so nice. They're not, you know, the best graffiti hand style ever, but they're pretty fucking cool. The screw, he'd paint those because, you know, his name's Twister or Twist, so Twist of the Screw. And I like this kind of graffiti because it's big, put your name up in big letters graffiti, as opposed to paint the most beautiful, intricate, colourful piece graffiti. So these are all paintings of his, photos and things. THR, The Harsh Reality. And then DFW is Down for Whatevs. That's cool, especially in like America, San Francisco and LA and those sorts of places. These vans are sort of a big part of graffiti culture, of tagging those vans. So him having photos of those, cutting them out, making a collage, which is obviously, he's cutting them out to use as, I assume he cuts them out to use for this sort of collage, and then keeps this bit and then makes something out of it with the backing of the envelope to make it its own piece. These are quite neat. I like them, ballpoint drawings. Again, you can tell he's very careful with the lines he's making. And I think in an interview I recall him saying these drawings are the ones he's the most careful with. Like most of his other stuff, he's like, it's whatever, but these ones, I guess because they take a longer time to do, that he's really, really precious with these drawings, and he's done quite a lot of them. Weird, hairy faces. I've actually contemplated pulling these pages out and framing them, because they'd be quite cool to have framed. Because that's, you know, you'll see later on, that's sort of a thing he does. DFW, Down for Whatever. These are all hand painted, and so I think that's what I'm getting onto, is stuff like this, collections of things, like things on their own. You see this and you're like, why did he paint some random patterns? That's kind of shit. I mean, not shit, it's kind of shit. I don't even like the colours. But it's when you put that into a collection that it becomes not more meaningful, not more impressive, but just more of a thing you can look at and sort of appreciate on a grander scale. And it very much reminds me of being an art student, and I feel that's something Barry McGee really does, is just being an art student, maybe having meaning to it, but ultimately just making shit that you want to make that's in your head. So these, again, it's blue tape to mask out the area, carefully painting them. Same with these. You just, oh, I'm going to paint some shapes and a pattern, and then you do enough of them and you lay them out and you go, oh shit, look, I've got all of these things I've painted. And then found objects like this, because these are, they're illustrations made by a person on the box of these things. So he's collecting those. Found items, graffiti, just making weird shit because you feel like making weird shit, painting a bunch of shit, weird ballpoint drawings. It's all very art student-ish, which is something I really, really appreciate, and I feel it's something that's easy to lose. Like loads of my sketchbooks used to look like this, just collaged things, bits stuck in, different kinds of drawings and tape and all kinds of shit. But then now it's more like, well, I'm an illustrator, I have to draw anatomy and superheroes, and it just becomes that, as opposed to really experiencing, creating and enjoying just making shit for the sake of making shit, which is one thing. Even though I don't necessarily like individual pieces of Barry McGee's on the whole, I love what he does, and I've stolen that style many times because that's a really nice Josh. Those letter forms are really clean, really nice. I like them a lot. So there's lots of just stuff. I guess these are sketchbook pages or whatever, but they're pretty cool to see. That's a cool photo. Found objects. And that's obviously painting that. That big circle is that bit of the S there, which shows you how big that is. I guess that's like a double door or whatever. That's really cool. Big graffiti. We like that. So yeah, he's painted a lot of those. Which I think you don't even realise how much he's done till you see something like this. I love this. I've said before how I like having loads of different frames and loads of different drawings in. Almost certainly inspired heavily by shit like this, or by this specifically. I was going to say I picked the book up from an exhibition of Barry McGee's that was in London years and years ago now. Which I was really surprised to see. I saw it on like Juxtapose website or something, that like Barry McGee's having an exhibition at this gallery in London, and it's down a random side street. It's quite a small gallery, so the fact that Barry McGee was having an exhibition there was a pretty big deal. And one of these, a smaller version of this, was in there where he uses like I guess thin plywood to build like a curve, like a bump. I think he has a name for it, a zit or a wart or something, he calls them, where he builds a big wooden bump coming out of the wall and then covers it in all these frames. So it's a big like wave of frames, coming out of the wall, with different drawings and paintings, his patterns, and I love the coloured papers as well. Just bright spots of red in amongst everything with photos and the found objects and stuff. Like, it's a really cool. It's very art student-ish, to say the phrase over and over again, but it's that cool kind of art student-ish. It's not. It doesn't feel too pretentious, because I don't feel like there's any real agenda to it other than I am making a thing and this is the thing I'm making. It's not trying. I remember at university we were shown and asked our opinion on a Damien Hirst piece where it's this huge room, and all around the room, around the walls, are all pill bottles and pills and stuff. And then in the middle of a separate room, that's all that was in that room. And in the middle of a separate room, all that was there is like a bug zapper like an electric bug catching thing. And it was just shit. Like the point to it was something to do with we're in a drug culture and drugs don't work and doctors prescribe them willy-nilly and whatever. And it's just such a huge space in this, prestigious gallery by this prestigious artist who can go fuck himself. He says Damien Hirst is like a multi-millionaire. And I'm going, he can go fuck himself. But it's such a waste of time and like you can say, oh well, this is just the thing I'm making, so here's the thing I made. But it's just fucking boring and pointless, and there's too much fucking bullshit behind it and narcissism trying to say like, oh, this is this about the culture we live in, and it's just boring as fuck. Whereas this, it's just making shit. Look at this cool. Like I made a bump come out of the wall and I covered it in this frame, and it's in these frames, and there's photos of my friends and me and drawings and shit, and I don't know. It's a lot more honest. I think maybe that's what it is. That's really cool. Another sculpture with the duffel. Probably used the old paint in a fire extinguisher technique for that one. So that's kind of cool. All these are individually painted, as I've said. And on their own, they're kind of like whatever. But you put them together, it's quite a nice... quite a nice thing. That's cool. I like that as an installation piece. It's an obscure thing to see, to walk in and see vans like that with graffiti and stuff. That's cool. 5 people high. And you can see the blur there because he uses a motor. And from the videos I've seen, it's a really loud motor just for the arm to go back and forth like this. And it goes... just so it looks like it's, painting the tag there. So those collections of things, so on their own, they're like whatever. You get a collection, it's kind of like whatever because there's not really anything there. But it's just a collection of, this is some shit I made. And then you see the patterns like that, taking up entire walls. That's fucking cool. And then the truck turned on its side. And then he's built an interior like a bathroom with a guy painting. I love these exhibition spaces, these installations he does, man. The circle, the like column of TVs he does. All the vans piled up. Telephone poles, and he's done some really good stuff, like made entire street scenes and like storefronts and stuff covered in graffiti. And I love that it's not just some patterns and some cars. It's all got a basis of like, I don't want to say street life. That does sound a bit pretentious, but yeah, graffiti, and there's photos of homeless people, and there's that sort of like raw kind of living human aspects to it, like an honesty, like I say, to it. And a lot of it looks kind of cool. There you go. There's the bump coming out the wall with all the frames over it and shit. Weird sculptures and piles of garbage, all these patterns. Like, it's cool to have an exhibition space and to have a specific theme in mind of, okay, this is the vision I want to put forward for this exhibition or whatever. That can work really, really well. But it's also cool to just go, here's a bunch of shit I made, and make it all work together in a weird way. And, you might look at this and think, Ewan, what are you talking? Where's the superheroes? Where's the fucking goblins and silly little men with their penises out? But I don't know. I like lots of different types of art. Like this lettering, this font, I guess he's come up with, or just the way he paints these letters. I'm not too keen on it, but I like that as a thing. I like the shape and the colour and like the whatever, I don't know, composition and shit. Broken up with a few little pattern pieces. That's cool. That's cool. This is quite funny. I guess this is photos, Polaroids taken by security guards in, I don't know what kind of store. Maybe it's an art and craft store or just a department store, but it's from people who've stolen art materials and have been caught, and they've had their photos taken with like their name and details on them and stuff. That's quite a neat little thing to put in the book. Loads of them. And that guy got caught twice. Repeat. Spelled wrong. That's quite funny. Living on the streets. This is cool because there was a wall in, I don't know, in America, LA or something, somewhere, that was given to Barry McGee to paint a mural on, because, you know, it might have been San Francisco or LA, somewhere where they're into that, like nice graffiti murals and stuff. So then he comes along with like a friend or two of his, and they just cover that whole space, this huge wall, in all of these tags as the mural, like that's the mural. And then the city came and painted over it, just whitewashed it, because they were like, oh no, we can't have this. It looks like vandalism or whatever. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Come on. Like, you could, if you had the same thing, because there are graffiti artists who've moved into like more calligraphy sort of stuff, and if you had one of them who did this and it was all calligraphy, you'd look at it and go, wow, that's beautiful, that's amazing that someone could do that. But as soon as it's like obviously graffiti tags and stuff, you're like, oh no, it's dirty, it's filthy. It's like, fuck you, man. Look at that twist tag, the Kets. It's a nice Sacer one. Like, it's not obviously calligraphy, but it's their own, you know, fonts and styles and stuff of lettering that you couldn't just, like, if you say to the average person, draw some graffiti, they'll draw what they think is graffiti, and it will look terrible, because there's a real, like, knack to it to learn graffiti. I've fallen off. I used to be quite good at it, but I haven't practiced in long enough, and now my hand styles are fucking whack. So there really is a real knack to it. Just like calligraphy, you have to learn to do it to get good at it, and do it for a long time to really get good at it. That's pretty much the thing. Yeah, it's about my thoughts on it, I guess. But like I say, it's very art studentish. It does bring me back to my art student days of just making shit for the sake of it, putting it up all up on a wall and going, look at all this shit I've made. And that brings me nicely onto some shit I've made. While I was looking in that box where I had my Zilla comic, this is only a small amount of the stuff in there, but this was from my university days, where I got very art studenty. I did illustration because it's drawing, and I was like, oh, I'll do that because I draw pictures, so I'll do that. But then the art student in me, which is still in there, and I'm going to try and keep him as close to the surface as possible, which is difficult when you're doing commissions and stuff, and people say, paint me a Spider-Man. It's like, fine, the art student can't, you know, you can get experimental to a degree, but ultimately the person just wants a picture of Spider-Man that looks like a picture of Spider-Man. So that's a tracing. I really like the pencil like smudge on there as well, of a bunch of spray can caps from a photo I took of, oh no, it was a scan. I scanned some spray can caps and then photocopied them and then traced it. I might have cut a stencil or something, but I love, like, again, the art student in me, I love just that, like the patterns in Barry McGee's book. They're kind of like meh, whatever, like what am I looking at? But it's a really nice sort of like weird composition. And it's a shame that, like, I'd love to show more of this on Instagram and stuff, but as much as I hate to say, in terms of numbers, it doesn't do well. People see it and go, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't really get much traction or much attention. So it's almost, not that it's not worth posting, because you post whatever you want, but as a, you know, a living working artist, it's to my benefit to do stuff that's going to get, you know, likes and attention and stuff. This is cool. 15 empty biros, all drawn in biro. And these were all drawn from life. That one had tape on it because it had snapped. That one was broken because I'd chewed on it. And you can see they're all empty. None of them have ink in them. Because I used to keep that shit around, which is something I'll get onto, which is collections of things. Again, as mentioned a bunch of times, looking at Barry's book. Collections of things were very important toward the end of my time at university, because I stopped caring about halfway through, because I just couldn't be fucked. And then I started just doing not random shit, but just, weird. Oh, it's from a drawing. Okay, so I scanned them in, drew it, and then traced the drawing. Gummo, very sort of art student kind of film. Dogtown. That's cool. Yeah, I drew a lot of these sorts of things, collections of things, because it was all about collections. This is a drawing, because I love drawings of, well, this is drawings of photos rather than drawings of drawings, but I don't still have the obsession, but I love cardboard boxes. So this, I had an obsession with cardboard boxes. So every time I saw like a box or a collection of cardboard boxes, I'd take a picture, and then I printed a bunch of those pictures off, stuck them on a wall, and then drew that. So that this, like having the photos on the wall was like a neat collection, but then the drawing of that becomes the artwork. So you can just about see that's like a shopping trolley with a box in it. That's a skip, a dumpster with a box behind it. Just random boxes on the street, flat ones and ones in a bin, ones stacked up. I really like that drawing. I think it's kind of cool. I don't fucking know. Collections of dice, Dungeons and Dragons dice. I was doing lots of work with like harsh black and white shadows and stuff. I will say this, one of my final pieces I drew, I think it was just over 200 empty biros, just like this. Relatively, about as life size as you can get. Maybe a little bit thicker, but yeah, relatively life size. So I drew, just over 200 of them, all different kinds, some yellow ones, black ones, red ones, whatever. And then I made a huge print of that, a life-size print of that, which was basically at the forefront of my final piece at university, which I was really happy with. I don't know what happened to that, but and that was, so this as what I was doing at, with my collections and stuff. I didn't want to have a photo of my final piece, so I drew it instead. This might have been drawn beforehand as like this is what I want it to look like. So I had 200 empty biros print in the middle, and then on this green paper I photocopied loads of drawings, so it was just random drawings of like collections of just shapes and letters and spray can caps, drawings of washing machines and boxes, collections of drawings of faces and patterns and shit. A spray can. So yeah, rather than have a photo to record it. So my final piece was all these drawings photocopied onto this paper, this green paper, and then laid out. And I guess this is the drawing I did of them laid out. So that's how it looked. And then I hung the print on top of that with another couple of prints beside it. So I was drawing my drawings. So this is a drawing of drawings, of photocopies of drawings. So it's a weird sort of like, I don't know, reductive thing. Reductive, is that the word? Probably not. But yeah, that's shit I was into. Oh, cool. Cool. That's Mr. Mousy Mouse. The stencil. I did spray that around places actually a little bit. And I tried to cut it because I know Banksy very rarely uses straight lines in his stencils. If you look at them, he uses like quite wobbly lines. So I tried to emulate that. and paint that around so people would think it's a Banksy. Because it looks quite Banksy-ish. Maybe not perfectly Banksy-ish, but it's quite a Banksy-looking thing. Because I wanted to trick people into thinking like Banksy was spraying this mouse with an ear on its back. Which I really like that stencil. I think that's quite a cool fucking thing. Which obviously relates to the comic I made. Collections of things. Chimp faces. And that's like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. Ooh. I remember we had a project we were given these like old English words that were no longer like in the English language, and then we had to illustrate them. And so this one I got was visotactile, which was to do with seeing with touch or something. So like, yeah, viso obviously is vision, tactile is to do with touch, so seeing through touching. So I made it out of thumbprints. I think for these ones I drew the letter on my thumb and then in reverse and then pressed it down, and then for some of them I just cut them out. And then the S, I was quite proud of the S, like 2 thumbprints. See, that's art student shit. Like, it's illustration to a degree, but it's like some fucking art shit. Letters, man, I did a whole, I think one of the worst grades I got was on this project I did. It was all just lettering, because I got a little bit obsessed with that, because it was another form of collections. Because I remember one of my lecturers saying, as an illustrator, you should always be collecting things. You should have walls full of like toys and memorabilia and stuff you found and all these collections of things. And I realised I've never had any of that. Any collection I have has been completely incidental, because all my collections tend to be collections of books, collections of drawings. So that's what I made my project out of. Collections of empty pens. I had hundreds of empty pens lying around because I used so many of them. So I did a piece about that with all the empty biros. So that's where I went with my final project, was collections of things that happen accidentally, rather than, oh, I like these Lego people, I'm going to collect every single Lego person I can, or whatever. And so I had my graffiti influences and background and the drawings I liked doing and all this shit that I made and came up with. And lettering was in there. I quite like this. Alphabets. Alphabets are important in graffiti. Everyone has their own hand style, their own alphabet. And this was a stencil I made of an alphabet. I don't know exactly what these cut out bits are, but I don't know, they're kind of cool. ABC. It's just a page from a sketchbook. Spray painted ABC alphabets. More. Oh! Glitz and glamour. Oh, glitz and glamour. That's quite cool. So that's like a horror movie kind of font. Glitz and glamour. And then this is, I did it on glossy like sticker paper on purpose so the paint wouldn't dry. So it was like a specific kind of spray paint. And then I used, where's the spray can? I spray painted it black, just quite heavy so it was thick, and then used this part of the can to write in the paint. Because I'm an art student, that's what I was doing. So it says, that's a GLITZAND, GLAMOUR. It's not that clear, but it does say glitz and glamour. See, because it's clearly not glitzy or glamorous. That's the thing. Art student, man. And that's me practicing, I guess. So yeah, so there you go. So I tried it on just this regular cartridge paper, and it didn't work. You can kind of see it, but it's like still black. But then did it on the glossy paper, and you really carve the paint away, so you can actually see the letters. Experimentation, you see, that's what they like to see, even if they hated. Oh, this is a load of that I did for that project. Dirt doesn't hurt. I think that was a little. I wrote it small and then stretched it out and blew it up on a photocopier. I love how that looks. All like the shit around here just from photocopying it. how it looks dirty. Dirt doesn't hurt. So I made like this sort of size, just like almost a big zine, just full of random lettering and stuff. This was another one of them. Want. So this was brown paper that I cut the letters out of, and then I stuck those letters underneath brown packaging tape so they showed through, and then photocopied it. And it was, young rebellious Ewan being like anti-capitalist, and it's all about glitz and glamour and dirt doesn't hurt because everyone just wants all the time. I was really happy with this font, actually, like a chunky box kind of font. Yeah, man. And you can see, like, that's the same. This just cut out and moved to the side. So yeah, I made like a whole zine of that. Nothing. And the lecturers hated it. They slated me, saying like, you've clearly hardly actually done any work. All you've done is a few like letter forms. And they're right. I think this was made like I cut the letters out in card and then painted them, probably with black paint, and then printed them, and then like photocopied it as an inverse, so it was white on black as opposed to black on white. And again, I love the texture. That's something I don't do nearly enough of, is this kind of stuff, to get real good textures and shit. I need to do more of that shit. There's a bunch of... I should find this shit. So I was playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons at the time. So the dice, these are drawings of dice, and these are maps. That is nope, that way, that away, nope, that away. Yeah, that is this drawing there, which is a dungeon layout, different rooms with different things happening in them. So I drew loads of these dungeon rooms. That's quite a cool one. I think the black and white rooms had some kind of significance. I guess that's that one there. Dungeons for Dungeons and Dragons. I love that shit. I've said time and time again, that's part of why I love Dungeons and Dragons, is all of this shit. And so this became a collection. I ended up having loads of these laying around because we were playing D&D. That's why I was making all these dungeon layouts. So yeah, I tried to get inventive with them. Some of them were basic, just squares for rooms and lines for hallways. Some of them were more detailed, where you've got rocks and lines for water and shit. Caverns and things going on. Diagrams of this. It's not actually like a hallway. It's a tube going down into a cave system. And then stuff like this that I'd also make. Those were fun. Dungeons and shit. Oh, cool. That would be the letters I used for that one, I assume. The N? No, okay, they might have been different letters. Whatever. So yeah, there's a little baggie of spray can caps. Some used, some not, with my hand pushing it on the photocopier. Or scanner, or whatever it was I was using. And I like that, like as an image, I like that. Whatever way up you want to have it. With all the black space, and then just this, it's like, I don't know, there's something visually appealing to me about that. Knowing it's a photocopy, knowing how it's made, what it is, where it comes from. Yeah, these were all cut out of card, acrylic paint, and then printed. It's quite a decent thing. I think I scanned this in and used it as my own font in Photoshop or whatever for a while, but I might have to do that again. Part of me wants to have this font as the title for Gun Viking. I might just lay it out and see how it looks, but I'm not sure how great it will look in the comic. More alphabets. Like a chunky, fat graffiti one. The O. And it's two bits of paper taped together. So fucking... I don't know how else to describe it other than like art studenty, because the shit I was doing. This is done with brush pen, really quick and rough, like just get the basic bits of the letters, and then I like selected portions of it in Photoshop to colour them slightly differently, if you can see the slightly different shades. It's messy, dirty, but I like it. Some 3D lettering. That X sucks. Don't draw them like this again. Very good note. The E needs some work. I think for the A, I was a bit like, meh. The B, I fucking had it. The C was good. And I had it in a good way. I thought the B's really cool. The C's good. D works quite well. The E, yeah. That F's pretty decent. G, meh. H is pretty cool. I won't go through all of them. You get it. The M's pretty nice. And with the M, you could really use the M for M, E, and W. Because there you go. That's a capital E. That was a W. And then backwards E, a 3. I don't know. Oh, I didn't even do a W because I just figured, why bother? Just have the M upside down. Yeah, man, I liked letters. A big udder with some screen tone that I probably copy and pasted from Google Images. That's pretty funny. A receipt. I made loads of these. I photocopied so many of these. I had kept one in my wallet because I was cool and weird like that. So items, nothing, total, nothing. Thank you. The point being, capitalism's shit. Stop spending money. Thank you for nothing. And then the serial number, if each of those numbers relates to a letter in the alphabet, it's 5th, 23rd, 1st and 14th letter of the alphabet, which is E, W, A, N. You get it. These were collections of boxes. Just a random collection of boxes. And this is again from me trying to have a style with the contrasting shadows and light and all the lines used in the background. And then you can see it's a torn bit of paper on... I had, I don't know, stacks and stacks and stacks of photocopies, and I photocopied so many just blank bits of paper just to get the black, like a black page, screw it up so it gets all these lines on it, and use that as a background for stuff. It's experimentation, man. And in these, I guess, there was a photocopier that I only used a couple of times because it confused me a bit, but you could select it to photocopy in a single colour. And then in the same way that like you can get grey tones in a photocopy, it would be that, but all in like, you know, purple or blue or orange or whatever. So it was not really a colour photocopier, but it photocopied in single colours. So then I did these, which was traced and coloured in from these, obviously negatives. So that would be the background, that would be the foreground, and then somewhere, it might be in here, I'd have the lines as a separate layer, just like you would for screen printing. You had the different layers. So then I'd photocopy them in different colours on that single colour photocopier to get a layered image. Man, I was on it as a student. 68 damage. 68 damage, Dungeons and Dragons. That was obviously drawn and then coloured digitally, and then used like dot screen tone for the shadow. I was trying digital colour, but like in a weird sort of, I guess, art student-y kind of way. I don't know. Loved shit like this. Like I said, I had blank pages. I think they're right here actually. Cool. I made these on the photocopier. They're dungeon tiles. The idea for this being that you can generate, so you use it like a deck of cards. So you go, okay, there's a room. So if you're, do I still have my guide? Yeah, little snig. If your people are here in this room and they go to the end of the hallway, you go, but what's at the end of the hallway? Draw another fucking card, and then you link it up and you go, there's a big room and there's monsters in it, and then there's another doorway there which goes off to the sea. It's fucking cool. Because I had you can get play mats in D&D, just big sheets of these squares. So I photocopied that, cut loads of them out into these different shapes, photocopied those, and then stuck them onto card. Photocopiers were... I was fucking obsessed. I spent so much time in the library at university, just at the photocopiers, just day after day, doing shit like this, just because I'd use that as like a background for something. I'd draw a picture and think, oh, it would look nice on a torn bit of paper on a black background. So I'd have that. That's a collection of drawings of books, stacks of books drawn in heavy black and white. These are my own books. Spray cans in front of them on my shelf, my wallet on top of a pile of books, just outlines of books, collections of books that were in here somewhere. Oh, they might have been in the final one, not in that one. Dice! A collection of dice with a tone background. Oh, Mick Foley! I did a little book after university of monoprinting, if you know what that is. It was like a wrestling A to Z, with some screen tone in there, I guess. And that was M for Mick Foley with the socko. Oh, that's quite cool that I kept that. Blew the photocopy up of the old spray can caps. I had an even bigger one of these, an A3 one, on my wall for like my entire time at university, just because I like how it looks. I like that. I don't know, it's just a nice sort of, not a pattern as such, but it's a cool, like, there's something to it. There's something fucking to it. Oh, that was spray paint. That's a painting I did. A very bad quality photo, but spray paint of like eyes and muscles and shit. And collections of drawings. Oh, I forgot to look at this. That was a cool font. That was cut out of paper and then scrumpled up a bit and then photocopied again, obviously. And this is one of many, many little zines I made. Collections of stuff. Collections of squares with graffiti. Collection of heads. The old circular thing. Oh, that's literally that. Picking his nose. See, his arm goes off and it goes all the way around here. And then into his nose. I liked it. Faces and shit. Zilla. We like a good Zilla. I think that was from the comic. Oh, the human-headed Hydra we all know and love. Guy on a tortoise. That's the ball. That's the... I didn't have the lines for it. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah, so I have the background and the fill layer for that, which is this, which is a globe made out of cardboard boxes, which I was quite happy with. That's one of those drawings, like this one. This version of it kind of sucks, but I was so happy when I first came up with this, the heads coming out of the mouths in a circle. I was like, fuck, yes, that's perfect. That's amazing that I came up with that. This was a similar one, of like the globe made of boxes. That I was just like, fuck, I'm a genius for doing that. Are you not entertained? Guy sat watching telly. That's quite a neat little doodad. Some drawings. Oh. And these are some of the drawings, I guess. Ooh, look at that. The head's coming out of the mouths, but it's all like X-ray cut in half, CT scan or whatever. All the lines and shit, man. It's pretty cool. Another one of those. Guts. A globe of guts. A globe of heads. I was into globes of things, evidently, at this time. That would be for the thing. I assume that's the... Nope, too big. But that's basically that. Globe of boxes. Stack of boxes. A bunch of people. Bunch of faces. Yeah, man, my art student days. See, most of this stuff I'm still okay with. Like a lot of my old stuff I can look at and go, that's shit. What were you thinking, Ewan? What the fuck were you doing? trying to be an illustrator, but like there's certain stuff when it comes to ideas and things. Like I did a project earlier on before I gave up at university. The whole idea was double-sided artwork. So there are those like old toys from like fucking hundreds and hundreds of years ago where it's like a disc with a string either side, and then you twist it and then you can pull it and the disc spins, and on one side of the disc, I think in the film The Prestige or something, they have one where on one side of the disc is a picture of a bird and on the other side is a picture of an empty cage, and then you spin it, and if you spin it at the right speed it just looks like a solid disc with a picture of a bird in a cage because you're seeing both sides at once. So I made one of those with like a jellyfish on one side and a bowl of water on the other, so when you spin it it's a jellyfish in a I did a drawing of a like a village, and then when showing my work to the class I then got up, moved to the window and held it against the window, and then you could see, because I'd drawn on the back of it, Godzilla attacking the village and it was on fire, because I drew that on the reverse, so when you hold it up to the light you see both sides of it. So I did loads of shit like that, where like solid fucking ideas going on. I got a really good grade for that one. I also did because I a few years previous I'd spent a night in a cell because of graffiti, so I made a scale model of the cell I had spent the night in, with like the bench and everything, and then bricks on the walls and stuff, and the little like glass brick window thing, and then on the wall in graffiti I wrote what I was thinking at the time, and it was about like this big, a little cube. So I made it, it was painted, drawn graffiti on the walls and stuff. I took a couple of pictures, but then I sealed the box up and taped it all shut so you couldn't see it. The idea being that like it's a cell, you can't, there's no escape, you can't see into it. But then if you've been in that situation before, if you've been in a police cell, you have some idea of what it looks like. So you know, like I said, I had photos, so I could show. I'm not just giving you a box and telling you there's something in it that isn't, like Schrodinger's fucking prison cell or whatever. But yeah, it was fucking ideas and shit. Ideas. I feel like that's something like I say, I've lost maybe something of that over the years. Where you get into just, well, I need to make money, so I'll do commissions. I'm going to make a comic of a Viking with guns. And it's like, maybe the fun gets taken out of it, or something else. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just wondering if I can use any of this for the thumbnail, or if it's all going to be shit. If any of this is interesting, maybe none of this is fun. Look, I drew this today. It'll be on my Instagram, and you'll probably see it there before you see it in the podcast. Shall I do so? I'll tell you what. This is my current sketchbook. Shall we? I've not shown you through this so far. That was, you know, several bits of this would have appeared in episodes. A gal in clothes. Several bits of this would have been seen on Instagram, and some of it might be brand new, completely. Seen the Naruto, girls in dresses. I think I have said I will be like filling these in if I come up with ideas. Oh, there you go. There's a sneak peek that you might not see beforehand. I'm thinking this kind of font. I'm trying to think for the cover. I still haven't done it. I've heard back from the printer. I've got a quote for the prices of getting the book printed. It's pretty much ready to go, but the front cover I still haven't quite nailed down the font. Because the only one in my head, which is usually how it works, it's what shall I do? Here's an idea in my head, put it on paper. Yeah, that's good enough. I'll use that. So the idea in my head that I have is like old 70s, 80s fantasy fiction title lettering, something like that. So I googled a bunch of different fonts and stole a few bits from different parts of them and put them together. So I think I might keep the G a bit more like this, because this is a little bit like the whole point is I want it to be readable because the current gunfighting font is a bit fucked. So I figure if I can make it quite plain but still look kind of fantasy-esque, and it will be hand-drawn and then photoshopped high contrast on the cover. That'd be quite cool. A bunch of doodly-doos and some tits. I think these are all doodles for like back of print sketches when someone wants a print with a sketch on the back, and I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So these are doodles for those ideas for that. Or those, thems. Bears, that was a thing. Goblins happening. That was funny. Bears. Ass. Girls in dresses. Howard the Duck, that was for a sketch on the back of a print. That was cool. I draw this in your style thing. Had quite a bit of fun with that one. Mr. Big Arm. Actually, I love this page. This was designs for Trashberry's turtle head toy that I could customise. And then these were other ideas to customise just the head of it. With sorry, I'm burping and hiccuping at the same time. And I love this sketchbook page. Like as a sketchbook page, there's something about it I really like. Like the pink with no outline and then the purple underneath and stuff. I love that. Love that. I love a good sketchbook page because it's like a collection of fucking whatevs. A couple more. That was funny. Micey mice. Shorts. A couple of drawings of my friend. And that was from, I guess, last week or whatever. Shall we draw a little something? We've got time. Have a little draw. It's supposed to be a drawing podcast. Where's all the drawing, Ewan? This is all pod, some cast, and no fucking drawing. Don't forget, before I forget, I think this would be episode 38, if I remember correct. Burger Party. Burger Party, Burger Party, Burger Party, Burger Party. In a couple of weeks. Episode 40/episode 100 will be the Burger Party. It will be me on camera eating a delicious burger, maybe some fries and shit. And you should do the same. Be prepared. A day or two beforehand, have all your burger stuff ready to go. So when you watch the episode, have a burger. And then we can know that hopefully most people, if not everyone, but most people, or at least some people, will be watching it, eating a burger, and it's like we're all eating burgers together as a big burger party to celebrate 100 podcast episodes or whatever the fuck this has been. And I have some ideas going forward, which I've said before for like future podcasts, and I've not done a single one of them, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. Because that's just the way it is. Some things are still the same. That's even the lyrics? I don't know. I wanted to do a drawing, a Kong versus Godzilla drawing anyway. But those are two, like, Kong, less complicated, just draw gorilla, really. And as long as it looks like a gorilla, it's going to look like Kong. Especially the modern one, because it literally... Because, like, the old fucking, zillion years ago, King Kong looked like a weird kind of puppet. And it had a very specific look to it in its face and its body and everything. But now, because of CGI and stuff, it's just gorilla. They have designed him. He does have a look, but essentially it's gorilla. So if I draw gorilla, it will look like Kong. Godzilla, on the other hand, has a very specific look to him, especially the modern one, the modern US one. And there's a lot of like detail in his skin. His skin is very textured. There's a lot of like scales and bumps and stuff going on. So that's my main concern. I've just about got an idea for like how I want to draw him, like the fighting pose or whatever, but I just know it's going to take a while to actually draw, so I'm putting it off. But I figure if I do get round to it, I'll video the drawing and then dub over the drawing a review of the film, because I wanted to like it, but I just didn't. And even the parts that I can excuse is like, okay, well, this part was okay, this part was okay. When I think back, I'm like, but I wasn't enjoying it because the film overall, because the film overall was just shoddy, frankly. I won't go into it now because this isn't the review, and the review will come out, months and months after the film, before or after anyone gives a shit. But I'm most annoyed because I paid to see it, because I was like, a huge fan of the old Godzilla movies, old monster movies, big time fan of those. Even the newer ones, the Godzilla from, was it 2016 or whatever? And then I saw King of Monsters. Didn't love it, but did not hate it. There were certain aspects to the King of Monsters I really, really liked. King Ghidorah is always been a favourite. Love that guy. So to see him portrayed, or it portrayed, in a film, and they portrayed it really well with the three heads having different personalities and stuff. There was some good stuff in there. So I was so looking forward, because I'd seen the original. I think there's two. There's a black and white Godzilla vs. King Kong, and then there's a colour Godzilla vs. King Kong. The black and white one, I think, is as good as like an old King Kong film. So still, old and tacky, but kind of good. And then the colour one is a bit more modern. And it's just sort of like old Godzilla movie trash. Like, it's dumb, but it's, you might get a laugh out of it for how dumb it is. So you can still appreciate it at least. And so I was so like eager and to see, Kong vs. Godzilla. I paid full price to watch it on Amazon. And I was just I was actually, as soon as the film started. I'll say this now. I might mention it in the review as well, but I'll say it now. It's not even spoilers. It's literally the opening of the film. It opens. Kong is sleeping and he wakes up. He wakes up, has a big yawn and a big stretch, and I'm like, oh, that was quite a very, very human-looking stretch. Then he stands up, walks away from the camera, scratching his bum, looking like an adult male, waking up in the morning and scratching his bum. And I was like, oh, really? And then he, I don't know if he has another yawn, and then he's, under a waterfall, showering, looking like a human in the shower. And I was just like, why is he just a human? Why is he acting exactly like... It's not even like you see, in some, especially ape species, you see characteristics and behaviours that could be seen as similar to human behaviours. So it's like, it happens. But this wasn't even that. This was human, mannerisms and stuff. Mannerisms and stuff applied to a CGI gorilla, and it was just like, oh no, straight away, this is going to be the film, isn't it? It's just going to be, this is how dumb the film is going to be. It's not going to be good. And frankly, my instinct there was completely correct. That sort of, not necessarily that theme, but that level of irritating, not stupidity, but just fucking annoyance, just aggravating. Why? Just weird choices they made for so many things. Why would that happen? Why are you doing that? Why do it this way when you could do it that? It doesn't make sense. Why are you fucking it up? It's King Kong versus Godzilla. You can make it so fucking good and impressive, and they just didn't. Which I know is true of so many modern films and stuff, but I had not high hopes as such, but I had hope. I had hope that it would be good because I wanted to like it. I wanted to watch Kong vs. Godzilla and come away from it wow, Kong vs. Godzilla, that was cool. But I came away going, ugh, every part of it. And I genuinely... I realised halfway through I was bored as fuck. I was checking my phone a lot. and I was just like kept spacing out and not caring, like looking around, just like, oh, when is this bit going to be over? And I realised, like, I pulled down to see the progress bar, and I realised I was halfway through, and I was like, I'm halfway through the film, and I'm bored shitless. I shouldn't be watching Kong versus Godzilla and be bored out of my mind, but I just was. So that's my basic review of the film, is that it was just irritating and boring. There are other points which I would like to cover. So I say, if I can get that drawing done, record it, and I'll audio clip a little a review over the top of it, rather than have, part of me wants to make like a proper review where like I actually get clips from the film, and even if it's just from the trailer or whatever, I could probably utilise that well enough. But because of how much I dislike the film, I don't want to put in that kind of effort. So me doing a drawing, because I'd want to do a drawing like that anyway, a Kong versus Godzilla, it's quite a cool drawing. Might get a lot of likes on Instagram. But if I can use that to go towards a review or something, then, it's more content, isn't it? There you go, that's what it's all about, fucking content. I've spoken about Rat Bro a load of times. You should know them by now. They make like rat people. I've drawn their shit loads and loads of times. This is my idea, because we keep going back and forth on eventually making a toy together. And this is my current idea. I've had a few ideas for toys that they and I can collaborate on. But this is my current idea, is a Goblin Bro. So like they do humanoid or anthropomorphized rats in like street clothes, with, spliffs and blunts and spray cans and stuff. I figured do that, but a goblin. Part of me wants to say, no, just make him naked with his willy hanging out. But I think it'd be quite cool to have a goblin in a hoodie and trousers with his big goblin feet hanging out. Maybe with a spray can, gob spray, it says on there. Which is funny, because a gob is, in England, a slang term for your mouth. So it's like gob spray, mouth spray, I don't know, fucking whatever. I don't know, fucking whatever.